welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode 366. We are recording this and broadcasting live on Sunday, April 18th, 2021. I'm David Lott. Joining me as always is Bobby Jackson.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And Michelle Hillard.
Hello everyone.
What's up, guys? Happy Sunday. Happy another Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Yeah.
Happy Sunday.
Sunday that I apparently thought all day was another Sunday. Like two different things I thought was happening this weekend until not happening.
Well, it's going to happen though.
I thought Mortal Kombat came out this weekend. Now, I'll say in my defense, it was going to come out this weekend. That was the original plan, and it got pushed back a week. So I had been in the mindset of like, oh, I should watch Mortal Kombat all weekend. And I was like, I guess I'm just not getting around to it. And now I found out, like, as of like 2 hours ago, I was like, oh, wait, yeah, like it didn't even get released. So that's not an issue. And then I thought the Oscars were tonight. That's your fault. And
Wow. How's that bus feel?
Like,
I'm kidding.
no, like he asked me.
It was like earlier in the week.
Like Thursday or Friday. He's like, the Oscars was weekend, right? And I was like, I had to think about it for a second. And I was like, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's this Sunday. And he's like, man, so show or Oscars? And I was like, oh, yeah, shoot. Yeah, I don't know. And so all this weekend we go in the premise that today was going to be Oscar day. And then like at some point this afternoon, I was going through Instagram and I have the Academy, you know, and so like there's a post that literally is like 1 week from today. And I was like, oh, hey, so it's next week. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah.
So I guess you should throw a programming note out there, David, then for next week.
Yeah, we're not going to do a show next Sunday night. Now, will we do a show another night? I don't know if we're going to reschedule or we might just skip the week. But the Oscars are next Sunday, so we'll be watching the Oscars in whatever form they will be. And, of course, I'm saying this, and I remember watching it last year where it didn't have hosts. And I felt like I might have said after that, I was like, you know what, I think I'm done. I don't think I'll watch next year. It was that bad, in my opinion.
You did say that.
I really didn't enjoy last year's Oscars. But, well, I'll at least give it a chance. If I'm like half an hour into it going, that's sad that I could say an hour into it because that's how long it is. Half an hour or maybe as much of an hour into it. And if it's that bad or worse, I'll probably jump ship and go play video games or something like that.
It'll be interesting to see how it goes down. I'm hoping they learned lessons from their mistakes last year. And now, mind you, I'll give credit. Last year when it happened, we had been in COVID for like a month. Like it was,
or even really were we like the Oscars happened when did they broadcast last year? Because last year they would have broadcast like in February, right?
They usually do it in February or
Right.
March. So yeah, I mean like situation was weird, life was weird. I acknowledge that.
I think it was more for me just like they've definitely gone on this route of no host. I know a lot of people seem to like that.
I'm not a
I
fan.
fall into the other group that I'm not a fan. And I don't know. I just particularly thought last year's show was so boring and uninteresting.
It was. I'll be curious to see how they're going to make it work.
Wasn't last year the reason they had no hosts was because of the whole Kevin Hart thing?
I think
Wasn't that
so.
last year?
That's
Or
why.
the year
That's
before?
right. It was just before.
Or it could have been the year before. I don't even remember now.
No, I think it was that. I think it was just before COVID would happen. Now that it's all kind of coming back to me now. Yeah. It was the Kevin Hart situation.
Because they still had a live audience and everyone was there. It was just they
Right.
didn't have a host. And I thought it was because of the Kevin Hart thing. And they decided to go with no host.
That's right.
And then I think that helped prompt that again for this year with the COVID thing. So
Yeah.
we'll see. A
We'll
question
see.
then. So based on how you're feeling about maybe kind of watching it, where are you at with the Best Picture nominations? Have you seen all? Well, I know you probably haven't seen all of them that are on the list, but which ones have you seen, if any? I know you've seen at least
most
one
of them,
for sure.
actually.
All right. I'm having to bring them up really quick.
I mean, there's Nomadland,
Okay.
Sound of Music, not Sound of Metal.
I was gonna say Sound of Music.
Sorry.
Sound of Music.
It's okay.
Uh,
So yeah,
Trial of
Ma
Chicago
Rainey.
7.
I've not seen The Father. Sadly, I've not seen Judas and the Black Messiah.
Or Minari.
I haven't seen Minari. I've seen everything else.
Yeah.
I've seen Nomadland. I've seen Mank. I've seen Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and The Trial of Chicago 7.
So there's only 3 that we haven't
Okay.
seen. And 2 of which we could probably watch pretty easily this week. If not all 3.
I mean, yeah, you can rent Judas and the Black Messiah now because it was on HBO Max. It got pulled off, but now it's available for like a $20 rental, which is frustrating considering I could have watched HBO
Could have
Max.
watched it for
but
free.
oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Father you can watch, and Minari. You can definitely see all of
Same.
them at home.
Yeah, we watch all 3
yeah.
of them.
But oh, go ahead, Bobby.
No, I was just going to say, well, I'll double back to what Michelle just said, but on that list, there's only 2 that I haven't seen, and that was The Father and Minari. And I do plan on trying to see those 2 before Sunday. And that makes me double back to what Michelle said. Do you think you'll get to see all of those movies before Sunday, or will you just kind of see what you can and then just kind of watch the show and see what happens?
It's definitely possible. I will say, I don't know about Michelle, but I mean, for me, a priority would be watch Minari first, Judas and the Black Messiah second, probably The Father third. You know, so if I
Right.
get to The Father, I get to it. If not, that might be the one that
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I,
No,
I
I
definitely plan
agree.
on. I definitely plan on not renting those and using my A list since I reactivated it and going to go watch those 2 in the theater. So might as well. I haven't seen anything in the theater since I went to go
Yeah.
see. I think I want to say it was Nobody, and that's been a few weeks. So no, the last thing I saw was Godzilla versus Kong in the theater. So, yeah, that's been a couple weeks. So, I definitely want to see at least those 2, and probably and most likely we'll see Mortal Kombat in theaters as well.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, I guess, because I reactivated my A list. Like, if indeed some of those are in theaters, I'm like, well, save money by seeing it in the theater at this point
Practically,
than watching
yeah.
it at home.
Practically.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, it's been a couple weeks.
Yeah.
What's everybody been up to? What's everybody been watching? Or anything anybody wants to chat about?
I feel like it's like I've seen things, but I'm like, I don't even know what I've been watching. But
So,
I mean,
so nothing that's stuck in your mind then.
I mean, like I started watching that show Made for Love on HBO Max.
Yeah, I talked about that a little bit in the last episode.
Did
You
you?
weren't here.
I'm enjoying it. It's interesting and weird, but I like it.
I feel like the more I've watched it, and I think all the episodes are out now. I think, but we
The
haven't.
last 3 dropped yesterday.
we haven't
Thursday.
finished it.
We're 4 behind.
The more I've watched it, the more I am enjoying it. Not that I wasn't enjoying it from the beginning. At first, it was kind of like your reaction now, where it's like it's interesting. I don't know what to think of this, but I think the more and more I've seen a couple more episodes, I'm liking it.
That's good because no, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's just it's an off center kind of a show, and I think it's just not going to be quite for everybody. But if you give it a chance, I think it grows on you in its quirky weirdness.
I've heard good things, but yeah, there's so much. I was thinking about this. I think it was like a yesterday or maybe even the day before, and it's never been at a point in time that I feel like where there's been quite this much to watch, and it's paralyzing in some ways. I'm like, I'll sit there and look at all the different things that I know I need to watch still. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, I want to watch this, but I also want to watch this. This show's this long. This show's this long. And there's also these movies, but I don't know if this movie's any good. And there's this movie that I've heard is good and I still want to see. And then I just end up almost not doing any of them because there's too much
Yeah.
of them to try and choose from. So,
Sounds like me, man.
It gets a little difficult. I know, but this is only a recent phenomenon for me. Most of the time, I had a pretty good handle on it, and I think really when I think about it, a lot of what I normally was doing was just watching movies in the theater. And since there hadn't been movies in the theater, that left more time to, in theory, watch stuff that's on TV and streaming. But because of all the different things, and we're talking series at that point,
Yeah.
it gets a little bit harder to say, okay, I'm going to throw my time and invest in watching this particular series for however many episodes it is. If it's not something that is right in your lane. Like for me, me watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier and me watching Invincible, those things speak to me because I love superhero stuff. And so of course I'm going to watch those week to week and be committed to those shows. But there's other shows that, like you just mentioned, that one, and then there's like one I've been hearing about on HBO Max, Search Party, and there's just like a lot of them that are out there that it's like, oh, I want to watch, but then it becomes a time thing. And the one that springs to mind that I really want to watch, and I'd been wanting to watch for a very long time, was the Gangs of London. And that wasn't available for the longest time unless you had AMC Plus, I think it is. And I wasn't going to get another streaming service just for one show. So now it's finally on AMC, and I want to watch that one. But then it's like, okay, I think there's like 6 episodes in this first season. And there's only one season so far, but it's like, okay, now I have to commit that time to being able to watch it. And I don't want to stretch it out either to where it's taken me 2-3 months to be able to sit down and actually watch it, whereas I'd want to be able to see it in at least 1 or 2 weekends and be able to sort of knock it out. But yeah, then it just becomes, okay, well that means excuse me, if I'm doing that, I'm watching 2-3 episodes in a sitting or one a night, and then it just becomes a whole thing. And so I haven't quite settled into a good groove yet of finding a show, being able to watch it and commit to however long its run is, and then moving on to the next thing. Because normally that spot would be filled by me going to the movies every week, and just haven't been able to do that. And now that everything is slowly starting to come back to theaters and being able to have that opportunity, I feel like I can get back into that flow a little bit easier than I can adjusting to trying to watch things that are streaming on TV.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get what you're saying with the. It's one thing when you're watching a movie in a movie theater every week, and it's like, okay, this is at least the one main thing that I know I'm going to see, and then anything else is kind of extra, or But when everything is just available on streaming, and then it seems like it's almost more of a mix of like, oh my god, now there's just so much stuff. I don't know why it seems like there's more, and maybe there literally is more, but it makes it more difficult. I think that's my odd way of saying. I get what you're saying.
I think for me, it's like, I want to watch things when I'm in a certain mood to watch things. But when like it's just the movie that comes out that week, it doesn't matter what mood I'm in. I'm going to the theater that week.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter if I'm in the mood for a thriller or not. I'm going to be seeing a thriller Friday night or whatever night. Like that's what's going to be happening. It's almost like it's not a choice in a really weird way to say that. If that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. Like I'm going to see whatever the new release is. So it doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter what mood I'm in. If it coincides with it, I'm going to go see it. Whereas at home, it's like, oh, there's 5 movies and 2 shows, and I'm not in that mood. 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 Nothing is appealing to me. And then you just wind up watching something you've already seen before. Right. And that's what I think that the struggle is at home you have the choice of what you're feeling in the mood to watch. Whereas if it's just the weekly drop of the theater, and it don't matter what mood you're in, that's what you're watching.
Right.
Yeah.
Of which we always seem to find time. It was a little later this week, I think, when I finally got to watch Falcon Winter Soldier. So I've been committing to watching it every weekend. It almost doesn't matter what mood I'm in. I think there's just this one episode that gets dropped each week, so it's really easy to commit to that.
Yeah, I was kind of curious to bring that up and ask you about it, Bobby. Like, You know, obviously, I don't know. We're probably not going to talk about spoilers with the show, or I guess we could, but well, we got one more episode left in a week.
Yeah.
What's everyone's take on this show? Like, and Bobby, I guess I'll ask you first. What's your overall take 5 out of 6 episodes in on this one?
I'm loving it. For me, it's just a matter of being able to see characters that I've been watching on the big screen, on the small screen, and having more of their story being told. Someone was talking to me about it not too long ago, where their take on it was that they had hoped that there was more action in it, or one of the episodes didn't have that much action in it, and so they were a little bit let down by it or whatnot. And my response was that for me, I could sit here and really watch an hour of episode where they're just sitting around talking, just because you don't get that in the movies, and for good reason. You don't go to pay that money to see two characters just sitting around talking. You want to see the action and see all the visual effects on the screen for all these superheroes and stuff. And I get that, and I think that's why I love this smaller form of being able to be on TV, is that you can get those conversations that you can't have necessarily in the big movies where there's limited in time. And for me, I am enjoying this story that's being told of what happened when Cap gave Sam the shield and what he did after that, and how the ramifications of what his decision was unfolded within that time frame, or in this time frame of the show. And so I'm enjoying that story, but more than just that story and seeing where it ultimately goes, I'm just enjoying seeing Falcon and Winter Soldier together, broing out, and just that aspect of learning more about them in their individual lives and how they are together and their dynamics, and getting more of what we saw from the movies, that the limited time that they have had together on screen. Seeing more of that, just it fulfills me in a way that it may not do it for everyone, but for me, I think that I'm happy the show exists just for that alone. I think that's what I'm getting from, whether it's WandaVision or this show, and probably Loki as well, any of the other ones coming down the pipe. I just feel like I am enjoying getting more screen time with these characters and getting a little bit more depth of who they are and what they're doing outside of the saving the world aspect. And so, I think I'm just enjoying it and just going along for the ride. And I have no specific expectations as to what I'm seeing, other than what they set up as I'm seeing it, and then to sort of logically see where they take it. But beyond that, I'm just enjoying it.
What's your take, Michelle?
My take, I'm actually a little bit mixed with the show. Like, I agree with Bobby. Like, I really do enjoy seeing, both Falcon and Winter Soldier, and seeing the, Sam and Bucky basically figure out their relationship with each other and find a harmony and a balance. And I like seeing the scenes where the two of them are just kind of talking about just whatever's happening, if it's between them or about the situation at hand. I'm enjoying, like Bobby's saying, like the extra dialogue and getting to get a little more in depth in these characters. Everything's not just a couple little lines and then an action sequence, and that's really kind of nice. I feel like it's really getting more character development, and I enjoy that. I think for the show, for me though, I guess I wasn't prepared for so much of it to revolve around John Walker's storyline and have it be such a main part of it. And I'm just not, it's like on one side, it's like, it's a catalyst to a character development of somebody else. But on the other side, I'm just kind of like, why do I care about this guy? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those things, like, I feel like it should be so forefronty in the storyline. It should be kind of more of a back thing, but they've really I feel like it's very forced upon us, that storyline. And I'm not really enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess for me, where I am with the show, I guess now to kind of reference what you're talking about, I have no problems with that aspect of the story. And overall, I like the story that this show is telling, but at times, not all the time, but at times, I don't think it's doing a very good job of telling the story. Like, even though I agree with you, Bobby, that yes, we're so invested in all these characters because of the MCU, the greater MCU. We've seen them for a while now, and it's to that point where you just enjoy, like, it's like you're hanging out with them. It's like why I watch West Wing so much. I love those characters in the West Wing so much, so I could just rewatch episodes over and over because I just enjoy being with these characters. And this is kind of like that, where it's like, I love these guys. I've seen them in so many movies now that even though a lot of the show is just a lot of dialogue and just talking to family or to each other, or and just kind of stuff about their lives outside of being heroes, it's still kind of nice to just be with them. With that said, I think as a show it goes, like there are a lot of times where I'm like, okay, like, not to say there needs to be a ton of action to entertain me. There doesn't. Like, I'm a Quentin Tarantino fan, and yeah, even though they're violent films and there's action, there's a lot of his movies that are just sitting around and people talking, but it's such good dialogue that I like it. Here, it's like some of the dialogue is just kind of not the best writing in the world, and it at times starts to feel a little dull, in my opinion. As much as in one respect I enjoy just being around these characters, in another respect it's like, man, it's definitely like this is a film that, it could have been a film in a way, a 2-hour movie, and instead we've got like 6 hours here, and we're definitely using the 6 hours with a lot of stuff that I think, I'm not saying necessarily would get cut, but I think written differently or pared down a little bit. But
I think
it's a tough situation where, like, I am enjoying it, but I don't think it's perfect. I think both of these series so far, from Marvel, WandaVision, and now this, it's different for them, and it does feel a little bit like these are really movies that we're putting in the form of television, not so much TV shows. And I don't know that that's a good or bad thing. I'm unsure at this point, but even though I am enjoying it, I don't think it's perfect. And I will say, I have found so far with this show, the weekend will come, and I think I've just naturally not been like, oh my God, I got to watch this episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, I mean, one weekend we didn't watch it till Sunday. Just was a busy weekend, but yeah, I will say, at least with WandaVision, it was like, oh, okay, because there was just so much, I think, speculation out there, and everyone like just wanting to drop spoilers every week. That was like, man, I've got to see this like ASAP. And it got to the last couple episodes, and I was waking up early in the morning to watch them before I went to work. Right. With that said, I will say, I think the setup for this finale, it looks like it could be a solid finale. I'm really looking forward to it. But that's my complicated take on this show so far. I don't know.
I know what you mean. It's like, I like that we're getting more character development, but yeah, it's like, and I'm not doing any spoilers when I say this, but I will say there seems to be probably the best example of what you're saying is like scenes revolving around, we'll say, the boat. Sometimes they're just kind of do scenes, and I'm kind of like, okay, we get it, we're doing this. We're still working on the thing. We're still just, okay, yep, we're still just doing, and it's like the same thing for like 10 minutes. And I'm like, okay, guys, like, I get it. We're doing a thing on the boat. Cool. What's next? Like, it's like, I feel like we're chewing the space a little bit. Yeah, like, and it's not like it's epic dialogue or anything. But then they'll have a scene like after that where there's really good dialogue. And I'm like, okay, it was just a really good conversation the two of these guys are having together. Great. We're wrapping that up well. But I feel like it takes a while to get to that dialogue. And I'm like, okay, Yeah. No, I have to agree. There is a little bit of not great story writing at times.
But the overall story, I like the story they're telling. Like, very, very much. So, cool. Yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty epic last episode.
I hope so.
Like it's definitely built up to be very intense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
for sure.
There's talk that there will be a second season.
Yeah.
Don't know
I can
yet.
see
And
that.
they never did announce that it was going to be sort of a limited way in the same way that they kind of did about WandaVision. So I guess even from the beginning, they kind of left the idea open that it could possibly be more than just a season. And I don't remember where I had heard it from or who said it, but I could have sworn someone somewhere said that there was a possibility of 3 different spin-offs from this show. And
Wow.
you could definitely see a couple. And maybe one of them could be one that was already announced, but, didn't think of it as being a spin-off from this show necessarily. But I could definitely see how it could fit into that mold. But yeah, as far as a actual second season of this show, I guess it'll depend on where they leave things in this last episode to see where a second season of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier would go.
Yeah.
I could see it though. I mean, yeah, like they'll have Loki will come out and a couple other shows, maybe 1 or 2 more movies, and then throw me another season of Falcon Winter Soldier. I'd be down with that. Like in the next, not phase, but a little further into this phase, I think would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'd be down with that for sure. Speaking of Loki, I'm excited for that show.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
That's gonna be good.
What do we got? June for that? I don't remember the date, but I think it's June something.
Yes, June.
That's-
Yeah.
That's gonna be good. I'm looking forward to that one.
You were gonna say something about
Loki is I was just gonna say Loki is the one that, honestly, out of everything that's been announced, the one I look forward to the least. And least meaning like I'm still looking forward to it, but in terms of if I was ranking them, that would probably be
Right.
towards the bottom. And a lot of that just has to do with Loki as a character and Tom Hiddleston. Not even Tom Hiddleston, but just this character's portrayal in that we've gotten. I read the comics and have for a while, not currently, but back in the day. And Loki's always just been pretty much a bad guy. And so I've always sort of wanted him just to be a bad guy, or the trickster that he normally is, which isn't necessarily an anti-hero or someone that you kind of root for. And so he's not really that. And so I kind of feel a little mixed on the version that we get in the movies. Not that he's bad or does anything that doesn't fit to what they're going for. I think Tom Hiddleston plays him great. And I think that the character is great for what they're doing, but it's just not quite the character I always wanted to see. And so I always have that sort of going into it with that character, that mixed feeling for it, because so many people love Loki, but I'm like, you're not supposed to love Loki. He's supposed to be a bad guy. And, that's kind of how, in a certain way, how I feel about Zemo a little bit. There's a lot of love for Baron Zemo right now, which seems just so odd to me because I get how they're doing it with the show, and I like what they did in the sense with the show, but people are glomming onto it as if he's like a bad guy you love to hate, or no, I wouldn't even say hate, because it doesn't seem like people are hating him. They seem to be loving him and forgetting the fact that they killed King T'Challa or T'Chaka. And it's like, it's that whole thing with Vader or Boba Fett to me, where they're the bad guys. Why are people loving the bad guys? I love that they look a certain sort of way and that they're bad, but I don't love them in a way that I'm like, oh, I just want to hold them and squish them because they're so lovable, even though they're evil and bad. And it's like, I don't get that. So
it's like you gave that example of Vader. I mean, you get why people love Vader, but Vader's always, bad. Like, until at the very end when he's not, but
there's redeemable qualities.
But he's just a bad guy all the time. You love him for being a bad guy, and like what you're just like, you're describing with Zemo. He's like, in this show, he's like working with our heroes. So it's like, if it's like Vader, suddenly we're like, still full Vader costume. We're like, working with the Jedi all of a sudden, like that. Like, wait, he's not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah. I mean,
But
like
I think people would root for that. Some people seem to root
yeah.
for the bad, and it's like,
I don't know.
I mean,
No.
I guess it's easy for me to like Loki, but it's like, I didn't read the comics, so I don't have that attachment.
right.
But you were gonna say,
No, I was gonna say, like, I think with Zemo, he's still a bad guy. He's just working his way to get to his goal, and he'll do what he's got to do to get to it at points, and he'll work with who he has to work with and bend things around to get to certain outcomes. And his outcome was to finish off a serum he wanted it destroyed. And that's what he got, but he had to work at it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like at the end, it's still his game that he's still playing. He's just doing what he's got to do. But I will say, like, as far as like enjoying him in the show, he's such a mood. Like there's just moments you're like, that is such a mood. Like, after he gets knocked unconscious and he's laying there and he's got an ice pack and a cocktail and he's just like, oh my God. And I'm like, I'm in such a mood. I think people relate to that
right?
kind of thing is what I was just gonna say. And Loki will be interesting, I think, because we're getting a different Loki than what we finished off with Loki in the MCU. I think, because in theory,
He's not really the same Loki in a way,
right? Because as the MCU goes on, his story arc, he progresses into more of a good guy. I think his better qualities come out as the movies progress on, right? He's still a bad guy. He still does crap to make himself get his end goal. But he becomes his better qualities shine through by the end of the MCU and his finality in it. But at this point, it's still pretty early on in that storyline that we're getting this Loki. So he hasn't let all those good qualities shine through yet, right?
Right.
Am I crazy?
No,
So
no.
I feel like we're getting a Loki that's still, he's a little sassier and a little less warm and fuzzy as he was at the end of his time in the MCU.
Right.
So it'll be, I think it'll be interesting if they stick with that kind of a line. Because as far as the timeline goes,
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I'd
But
agree.
we'll see. Anywho, I really only saw like one movie recently.
I think you might have seen one more than me, or did I see it? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What did I see? I don't even remember.
We watched the most recent.
We were talking. Bobby and I were talking about this off air, and I'm like, man, I know it's been like 2 weeks now, and for some reason I'm drawing a blank. Did I watch anything?
I don't think I don't
Please
think
tell
we
me.
specifically sat down and were like, this is what we're watching. But it was like, oh yeah, we watched it. We watched the most recent incarnation of Pete's Dragon.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I mean, I hadn't seen it until last night.
I had not. We watched it yesterday. Mainly the kids watched it. I think I was in and out of the room at times, but for the most part, I did. I watched most of it, I guess.
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised and happy with that movie. I thought it was really good. I'm kind of bummed I missed the first 20 minutes.
Oh, so yeah. I mean,
I liked it.
I
What I saw on.
I liked it overall.
enjoyed
I mean, this is a movie. It's been out a long time. It's not like
It
we're
has
gonna
been
dwell
out
on
for a
it.
long
But I
time.
mean, it was. It's tough, man. Like it was good, but it felt a little too. Man, see, I haven't thought about this.
Wrapped
I
up in-
forgot I even watched it.
Wrapped up in a package?
No. Oh man, I don't know how to describe it. This is
I
killing
don't
me.
know how you describe it.
It was fine. We'll just go with that. The movie was fine. Like
Wow.
the movie was good. Like
I enjoyed it. I thought it had some good character development, and I think by the end of it, you're kind of rooting for all sides of everybody that's involved in the situation. I thought it was done really well.
cool.
I will say I watched it in the theater when it first came out, and I remember liking it, but because I had loved the animated movie, blended live action movie
Right.
when I was a kid, and I couldn't probably remember much of that going into seeing the live action version, and I came out of it enjoying what they did with it. But as I think about it now, I think it was probably um, maybe not as memorable for me because as I'm sitting here, I'm saying to myself, who was in it? And I want to say it was like Bryce Dallas Howard and Robert Redford, but I don't think that that's right because how could
No,
they
that's right.
possibly have been in a? Is it really?
Yeah, that's
And
right.
that's right.
See,
and
for
Carl
some reason,
Urban
that doesn't-
and I can't think of the guy's name now. I just blanked.
Oh, yeah, he was in American Beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget the
can't think of
actor's.
his
I'm
name.
blanking on his name right now too.
But yeah, no, like it was
Okay.
interesting because I will say, like, yeah, I feel like the motivation between to be the protagonist for Carl Urban, I think his motives were a little not fleshed out really well. So it was kind of forced. But overall, I thought it was good. And I thought the CGI was really good.
CGI
Yeah,
was good.
I remember
I
liking
thought
the
the CGI was
CGI.
really good. I enjoyed it. I mean, I don't think it's the best live action that Disney's done, but I've seen worse live actions from Disney. So, you know,
There you go.
There you go.
there you have it.
No, I thought you had. There was something else, maybe like a week and a half ago that we watched or I watched.
And I'm
like,
trying to rack
forgetting.
my brain, like, of movies that I've really watched that I've been like, this is a whole new movie I've never seen before. And other than literally watching Pete's Dragon, the newer one last night, no, I don't think I've watched a lot. I think I've just kind of, I don't know. You know, in the hubbub of life, and like you're doing all this stuff, and you get home, and sometimes you're like, I just don't want to watch anything. I just want to sit in quiet.
Yeah, like I mean, baseball season has
Oh,
started.
wow.
I've been watching a lot of that.
Yeah, we have watched a lot of baseball. I mean,
Formula
a
One
lot.
is back. Been watching that. MLS is back. Went to the first game for that.
Yes, we did.
Our season here this weekend.
Go City.
But yeah, no, what have you been watching?
Yeah,
Bobby?
what you've
Should I
probably
sit
seen
back and get ready?
I'm gonna say, let me get my drink.
No.
Listen to Bob. Yeah. What's Bob
No.
doing?
No, quite the opposite. Like I said earlier at the top of the show, I've been mostly watching a lot of the series that we just discussed, like The Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then Invincible, have been my two go-to shows that I make sure as soon as they come out that I watch them. And then beyond that, it's been more or less other shows that I have always sort of watched, but nothing worth I don't know, getting deep into on the show. One show that I've been watching that had came back after not too long of being off was The Flash. And I was watching that, and I don't know. I feel like I was really ready to throw in the towel after this last week, honestly. It just feels so, I don't know. It's not bad, but it's just at this point with
Forced.
so much other really good, quality TV. This just feels like it's repeating that same pattern that it always does. And after a while, you just kind of get tired of seeing the pattern. And it's like, I feel like I could really just tune in towards the end of the season to really get the fullness of the whole season in general. Because it's one of those shows that's still on network TV, and they have like 20 episodes or 21 episodes or whatever. And it's like, I just don't feel like spending an hour each episode watching at least, I don't know, a good 15 of them spin their wheels to get to the big bad at the end of the season just to defeat it and set up another season of some other shenanigans. So it was like, I don't know, man. I might be done, but we'll see.
I mean, it also
Aside
seems
from that-
like, sorry to cut in, but like
No, go ahead.
that era of like a season that lasts 20 episodes, now with so much stuff that we watch that's usually like in that 10 episode range, which seems like a
Right.
nice sweet spot for a lot of really great
Yeah.
shows.
It does.
Like
20 shows is a big.
it's one thing when you're doing like a sitcom, a Big Bang Theory, and every episode is just its own thing for the most part, and
It's 22-minute, like,
kind of
Will
follows
Knox.
a formula that's
Yeah.
familiar, and you just enjoy it, and you can pump out 20 of those a season, cool. But like like a Flash kind of show, it's like, does this need to be 20 something episodes? Like what you're saying, like I haven't watched a Flash in a long time, but it seems like a lot of those CW shows could really just
They could be
squeeze
condensed.
down.
They can be condensed. I think the other problem is CW has so many commercials in their shows that it's like it's an hour show, but realistically, it's about a 40-minute show.
Usually like 42 minutes.
Right.
But even then, the content in that 42-minute show could probably be squeezed down to 24 minutes of actual solid storytelling. So it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, a 22 episode commitment series can be cut in half easily. In my opinion of those shows, I fully agree with you for sure.
Yeah. And honestly, and this is probably a bad thing if I really sat down and thought about it, but I've sort of fallen into a rabbit hole of watching a lot of YouTube videos.
We have no idea what that's like
I
around
have
this
no idea what that's like.
Well,
Jeez, not a clue, Bobby. Please tell us what could that
Well,
lifestyle look
okay.
like?
no, to be fair, you guys probably, okay, so I know, Michelle, your big thing has been for a little while is you love watching TikTok videos, and you can,
Yeah.
sit there and probably for
Quick.
2 hours will go by and you won't even notice, but you'll be watching all these YouTube,
Not like that.
TikTok videos.
Horrible.
so
like that?
I mean, but I get it, but that's everyone has their thing,
Everybody's
right?
got
that
their-
they might
everybody's
be
got their thing right
watching.
now.
Either they're watching, ton of Instagram stories from people that they like and follow, or they're watching stuff on Facebook from people. Everyone's got their thing. And so I've, in the last year or so, have fallen down a rabbit hole of constantly watching reaction videos. And it's like, for instance,
Okay.
I'll have just watched this latest episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And whatever happens in the episode that was like a big moment, then I'm like looking at all these different reaction videos of people watching that reaction to that big moment to see if they react in the same way that I did, or see their reaction and how they kind of will talk about the episode. And so I've gotten into, like, they're almost like watching after shows in a way for the shows that I watch, but just seeing it based on their reaction and as they're filming it. So I've fallen down that rabbit hole, and there'll be a ton of things because I'm watching, someone's reaction to Invincible, or I'm watching their reaction to Falcon and Winter Soldier, and oh look, they also reacted to their first time ever watching The Dark Knight, and so it's like, okay, well, let me see. So it's like I've just fallen down a rabbit hole of people watching stuff for the first time, and that's taken up some time as well. But I say that, and I do still manage to watch something, at least, to be able to contribute to my normal habit of watching new things. And I got a chance to watch Concrete Cowboy. That's currently on Netflix.
I don't know
And
about that one.
okay, so it's with Idris Elba and Caleb McLaughlin, who's the young kid on Stranger Things.
Okay.
And Caleb plays the son of Idris Elba, and it's an estranged relationship because when you start the movie, he's living with his mom, but he's gotten in trouble at school one too many times, and she sees that he's kind of going down a dark road, and so she takes him to live with his father for the summer, who lives in they're from Detroit, and then the father is in Philadelphia. And the premise of it is that Idris Elba's character is a street rider, which is, for their term, people who live in the city of, in this case, northern Philly, that are cowboys for all intents and purposes. And they take care of horses, and they will train the horses and have the whole stable and stuff, and have this lifestyle of a cowboy lifestyle. And what's interesting about it is that it has a sort of a nomad land feel to it, where some of the people who are these street riders in the movie are actual street riders and real people. I don't think that they're necessarily actors, but they have them in this movie as well. And you get it from their perspective towards the end of the movie as they're talking about this culture, which is a real thing, of these people who are these street racers in Philly with these horses. And the story is really well told, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's interesting because I know that Idris Elba is an executive producer on it, and I wonder if that had anything to do with the way the story is told. Because I would say a good 75% of the movie is really just following Cole's character, which is played by Caleb. And so you don't see Idris a ton, but you do see it when it sort of matters and when there's that relationship between them and trying to get that on track. And I did enjoy it a lot. It was something different that I didn't. I remember hearing about it before it was going to come out, and then when it came out, I didn't have a time to see it when it first came out, but made time to see it over the this past week, and ended up enjoying it. And so I would suggest it for anyone that's kind of interested in something a little bit different. It's something I didn't know about. I didn't know that there was such a thing as these street riders that actually ride horses in this black cowboy sort of community that they built up there. So it was a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I hadn't even heard of it.
No.
Yeah, Netflix doesn't do a great job of advertising a lot of their movies.
We've talked about that before.
So it's par for the course for them. But yeah, at least hopefully I've enlightened some people out there to check it out because I did enjoy it.
Yeah, going back to sorry to backtrack a little bit to the reaction video thing. Like I had mentioned to you that Bobby had an idea for us to do a kind of a series of reaction videos for that show. And was it Invincible, right?
Invincible, yeah.
Yeah, which, no, I know I haven't watched any of it yet. I've been interested in checking that show out. And it's funny, like, I would be willing to give that kind of thing a shot. With that said, I don't know that I'm the right guy to do a reaction video because I don't really react to things. Like,
No.
Hey, what's that supposed to be?
That's sarcasm.
No.
Like.
David's
definitely is.
David's accurate. He for I think as engaging as David is in conversation, when it comes to when he watches TV or a movie, he's pretty stone faced. Like his emotions don't really come through, or his thoughts of what he's thinking and what he's seeing, they're not coming through. And unlike me, where I am very expressionable.
But the thing you may not realize,
that's why it would work, I think.
And the thing you may not realize, though, and I really don't know the reasoning behind this, and I know I'm that way around other people. Like if I watch something alone, it's not necessarily the same. Like for instance, I watched the finale of Mandalorian alone, I believe, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I remember if you had a camera in the corner, you'd be like, why doesn't he act like this when I watch this show with me?
Wow.
It's odd. I don't know why. It's just a natural thing about me that if I'm watching things with other people, I tend to not really. You're right. I would almost have to force myself to probably react more if I did a reaction video.
Because there's only been a few times you've ever reacted when we watched a movie or a show or something. You've actually let a reaction occur. For the most part, you really kind of keep it in, and I don't really understand why.
I'm not saying I do either. It's just
Meanwhile,
I don't know. I've got no explanation.
Meanwhile, two Winter Soldiers ago, I let out an audible verbal curse word because I was so wait, what? Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what that was for, but that's a side note.
But yeah, I mean, I would be almost too much.
No, but I think that's what makes a good reaction. Honestly,
that's definitely what makes a good reaction video. Really throwing out there.
And what's really funny is I'll react to something and I'll look at him and be like, "Are you reacting to this?" And he's just kind of
see, that's part of it. That's
and I'm
part of the fun and seeing how the different people react and how they'll look at someone. And I don't know. There's just some fun in it. And when I'm watching it, because some people are more. Go ahead.
Oh, no. So, I mean, I've seen reaction videos to trailers and stuff like that. Are most of the things you're describing where they just finished the episode and now they're reacting to it? Or it's basically they're watching it's a video of them watching the entire episode. How most of them
work? So most of the ones that I've seen, the way they work, there are ones that do, like you said, they've just finished watching the episode and they come and talk about it right after they just finished watching it. But most of the ones I watch, it's them watching the actual episode. And what they do is it's in a sort of a picture in picture. You see them, and then in a corner box, either underneath them or somewhere there, they're watching the episode. And obviously, for copyright reasons, they only show, snippets of it here and there. I forget, some of them have said there's a certain amount of time you're allowed to show before they hit you with a, copyright thing. And so they will mark it out. Sometimes there's like a little timestamp of where they're at. So it's because what they will do is a lot of them who have these big numbers of subscribers, they will put it behind their Patreon where they'll watch the entire thing and you can watch along with them and be able to see it.
Yeah,
and
that's a
then
thing.
you can do it. Yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
a
And
thing.
so they'll do it that way, but then shorten it obviously for when they put the video out into the public facing area of YouTube. And so it's cut down. So you'll still get this because they're obviously definitely going to leave in the parts where they have the biggest reactions. So of course, I'm getting what I'm looking for out of it because I know that they're going to show those parts of them reaction, and you'll see that in that part of the scene on the screen as well as you're seeing them react to it. So it's not like I'm just guessing that they're reacting to a certain part. I know that they are because you can see it on the little screen. So
Yeah.
that's how most of them seem to work.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've seen a couple of videos where people react to like songs that they've never heard before.
Yeah, I've seen some
And-
of
and
those. There
those
was
are
the
pretty
few
good.
that got popular. Those two kids that had never heard like
Yeah,
Phil
those two kids.
Collins.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
Exactly.
that was a good one. That was a good one. Because you could tell
Yeah.
they just went, wait, did he just drop that? You're like, yeah, Phil just did that. Yeah. He's ahead of his time. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
they're
I've
fun.
watched quite a few of their videos too. But
Yeah.
that's the exact same sort of principle as the music videos, except for in
Right.
a movie form or TV show form. And there's so many of them that are out there that haven't seen
Yeah.
it. And it's not always like a new series or something. Like I mentioned before, it's like my girlfriend has never watched the Avengers, and so it's their first time, and he's maybe seen it, but she hasn't, and so it's like waiting for her to react to certain things, or it's just kind of like all these different pop culture movies. First time watching Star Wars: A New Hope, and that kind of thing. It's like just interesting to see people discovering things that have been in the cult zeitgeist or the world zeitgeist, and seeing their reaction to something for the first time and seeing if they love it or if they don't get it or how it holds up in 2021 compared to when it was out. It's just kind of a fun kind of thing to do in my spare time when I'm watching YouTube. And like I said, I'll usually fall down a hole and start seeing different things that I'm looking at from different people.
I mean, I definitely understand the watching a lot of YouTube thing. That too. I've been watching a lot of YouTube, but not reaction videos. But I mean, yeah, when we think back to like, obviously everyone who had read the books and taped their friends watching the Red Wedding episode for the first time.
Yeah.
And then it'll be interesting. Already, it seems like this Hero-gasm episode of The Boys season 3 should be one. From everything it seems like we're hearing, like that we'll have reaction videos galore for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I'd never read those comics, so I don't. I've heard a little bit about what's going on there, but that's all I'm going off of. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I read maybe the first, I'd say, 10 issues of The Boys when it first came out. So I don't know that I ever got to this particular story in the comics. So I don't know anything other than I knew when they had talked about it on Twitter that, yeah, they're actually doing that episode of that issue. So,
Right.
yeah, like you said, I'm sure it'll get a lot of different reactions and views because of it.
Yeah, I mean, there was that like tweet of like one of the writers, like him just his reaction to the meeting discussing the episode. I'm like, okay, yeah, this should be something.
Be something.
Yeah.
What'll we
Yeah.
learn?
Anyway, anybody got anything else before we?
I don't have a lot. I think I'm curious to see how the Oscars are going to go down this next weekend.
I don't have high hopes, but I'm curious.
I'm curious. It's yeah. And if anything, I just think it's been an interesting year in film, and yeah, I don't know. Like the crazy thing is for this year to be as weird as it's been. There's been a lot of good stuff out there, and there's movies that I think I'm glad that they're nominated. Like I feel like in other years they could have gotten passed by or looked over, and I'm like, no, this is actually really good. Like it's nice to see that.
Yeah, when we discussed Bobby Nomadland, I remember originally on here you had talked about how, I think I made a comment first about how I was like, oh man, I don't know how I'll feel like if it won Best Picture, and you straight up were like, I will be disappointed if it wins.
Yeah.
You were like, I don't get it. Now talking offline, off air, it sounds like you've kind of resigned yourself to it's gonna happen. Like just screw it. Is that in my?
Pretty much. I mean, it seems like it's taking all the awards at some of the other festival or not festivals, but award ceremonies, and so I just feel like it's just gonna just continue that train and go right through and win Best Picture. And yeah, like I said, I don't of the other ones that I've seen that's in that category. I would say there's probably at least two that I would put over it, in my opinion, and that's not a knock
agree.
against Nomadland. I liked it, and for what it was, but it didn't leave me thinking about it much,
Right.
days later, weeks later, that kind of thing, and so I just feel like. It's just riding that wave, and people are just going to be like, oh, yeah, I've heard good things, even if I maybe don't necessarily agree, and I'll vote for that for Best Picture, and it might go down like that. But, I mean, I'm willing to be surprised, and hopefully I will be, but at this point, I do feel like it will win.
I'm fully with you. I think it's just going to get it. And yeah, I agree. Like there's at least two other films that I think probably should take it. There's other films on that list that I've seen, and I still haven't seen three of them, but of the ones I've seen, there's films on there that has left me, either having dreams at night about an aspect of it or a thought process behind the film or the story, or I'll just be sitting there thinking, and then all of a sudden it'll pop in my head. I'll be like, man, what about this and this and this? Like, like with Sound of Metal, with the Chicago 7 even, like just weird thoughts. Like the movie sticks with me. I do not think about Nomad. Like I basically watched it and went, oh, okay. What do you want? Like I was done with it. I was like, okay, next. Like it did not affect me at all in comparison to many of the other films that are listed on that list.
Yep.
And it's sad.
Yep. All I'll say is we've talked about this before, but
Yeah.
I agree.
Same here.
I don't quite understand the constant kind of accolade it's getting.
That's
but-
not a bad film.
No, it's not. And I mean, she's really
No.
great in it too. Her performance
I will
is
say
really,
Norma
Macdonald
is really good. My only, the only thing I can imagine is maybe it's just so many people not realizing that there's this kind of lifestyle in the U.S. and it's like seeing this movie is like open their eyes to, oh my God, people live like this. And I mean, yeah, like, I don't know. Maybe if I knew nothing about that kind of world, maybe I would have had a different reaction to this film, but I otherwise, I don't quite understand either. So
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, if you guys don't have anything else, we are gonna wrap things up again. Yeah, Oscars are next weekend, so
on ABC.
we will not be here on YouTube
Nope.
next Sunday night. We'll be watching the Oscars and we'll discuss it on our next episode. But yeah, with that, we're going to wrap things up. As always, we'd love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com with your questions and comments. Here on YouTube, you can leave questions and comments, as you know, right down below. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe buttons and hit the bell icon to be notified whenever we go live or post videos in the future. You can also reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at @Flicker_effect. With that, I'm David Lott.
Bobby Jackson.
I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thanks for listening and watching.